Okay, it's been really a long time since I tried to set up this conversation with you.
True.
You're a very busy person, and AFSA has also been very busy, to be honest. The entire around end of last year and beginning this year, so it's always difficult to have the right time. But I'm happy that we finally made it, to be honest. I'm really, really happy. I'm so happy that you join us on this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hannington. So let's start with, my first question would be, can you please tell us, from the very beginning, your childhood, the entire journey from the childhood to where you are today, your educational background. Let the reader know who Hannington is. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. To start with, I normally call myself a rural boy. Why rural boy? Is because I was born and I grew up in the rural setting, a typical African rural setting in the village, in a small village in now what we call the Siaya County in Kenya.
Mhm.
And I grew up in a family of peasant farming, which is blending in between the fishing community and also pastoralist community, agro-pastoral community. My childhood, I went to the local primary school as any other child, where I did back then it was called CPE, Certificate of Primary Education, where I managed to score some good grade. I went to one of the village national school at that time. Then from national school, I went to college. So by virtue, I'm a trained social scientist. I come from a social science background. I'm a trained social social. Currently, I'm in terms of education. I've still not yet finished with my education. I'm struggling with a PhD program at Nairobi University, where
Yeah.
I've managed to finish my coursework, and I'm now presenting my thesis for defense.
Yeah.
To be able to defend and also do the research.
Where do you get all this time? You've been leading the biggest network in Africa, all the
Time
work, traveling, and still having the energy, the time, the passion to pursue your education is really, really amazing.
Time is what we create for ourselves, because there's always time to do something. If you have a passion and a conviction on something, you cannot miss time to do it. So that's where I get all the time I have, because you have to really try to navigate between the social work, the family life, and also the professional work. So I still get the time to do my studies, because the topic that I'm doing, research that I'm doing is on food system, which is actually blending on the work we currently do on the ground. So there's not much effort that is different from what I do in the office and the kind of the program I'm pursuing, because I'm looking at the food sustainability of food system in Africa from the small scale farmer perspective. And also looking at the contribution of donor into this food that is being producing. What's the hand of the donor and what are the challenges and implications? So it's basically on the same area where I am. So that's why I still have time to really navigate through learning, the formal learning system, and also the skills I'm getting from the field and where I'm working. So that's where I get the time.
Where are you based now? Are you based in Kenya or Uganda?
I'm
Where is
based in
the PELUM's regional secretariat offices?
the head office for PELUM Association is in Kampala, Uganda.
Okay.
Just near our AFSA offices, just in the same locality. So
Around same area, yeah.
yeah, so I normally even go, so when I get time, I go and see my brother at the AFSA offices, and we discuss a few things here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you please share us about your journey? When and how did you start the advocacy work for food sovereignty, agroecology? Where did that passion came from, for advocating for environmental justice, climate issues, food system issues, like you said, even before, joining PELA?
Okay, I think I would attribute my passion into agroecology work, or ecological work for that matter, from my childhood background. You know, when in the village, when you are brought up in a farming community, regardless of the level that they are involved in, you are able to follow up what the parents are doing in the farm, and you tend to interact with plants and animals more frequently, and see how can we be able to make the kind of relationship between plant and animal, and how can they benefit from each other. So we did a lot of farming at a young age, and I would see extension officers from the government that back then training farmers, training my father being included on how to do water harvesting, do terraces and all that, and also integration of crop, diversity of the crop in the field, and the benefit. If you plant crops that are from diverse nutrient requirement, they are able to support each other. So that is where I developed the interest of agroecology and environmental protection. So back in primary school, I would say I joined what we call the Young Farmers Club in school. And the Young Farmers Club basically were involved in tree planting, trying to do tree planting, conserving water, conserving nature. So that is when I started developing this skill. So when I joined high school, I decided to do agriculture as a subject because I wanted to really try to carry it to another level, how agriculture relates with other food system in the society and in the community. So that's when I developed the passion of conserving nature and also trying to produce things that are relevant to what I used to observe at childhood. So I'd say that is where I drew my aspiration of environmental protection. But in terms of professional work, I didn't pick it until much late in my professional work because my work started with, I began my work with an NGO that was dealing with farmers, small-scale farmers, but only addressing the issue of financial access to support the small-scale farmers to get access of finances to be able to produce. So we were more on the business element of the farms at that time, but trying to see how they can be able to have enough resources to produce. So this is where now we would walk to the field to see how the farmers are doing and most of the farmers that we were trying to promote at that time were looking at horticultural farmers specifically for production systems. But we were telling them, no, the horticulture system of farming is using high level of chemicals that always affect the environment and nature. How do we do a farming which does not bring in the chemical that you're using to spray on your downstream to the river, where it's harvest the same water, because you're polluting the water that you're consuming and developing some health implications. So that is when we started now interacting with the issue of agroecology and agriculture. But my deepening on agroecology work actually came when I joined the AFSA platform. Before joining PELUM, I joined the AFSA platform and I subscribed to the AFSA publications and I would read them from where I used to work. Although we are also promoting organic agriculture, which was not agroecology, because the difference between agroecology and organic agriculture. But I was so keen on reading the publication of AFSA, which I would say really contributed into influencing my thinking around agroecology. So now when I was joining now PELUM, I already a convicted person. In promoting agroecology and nature. I was already converted already to promoting agroecology, having followed AFSA very closely. So when I joined now PELUM, it just now gave me now a platform now to join AFSA network formally.
Yes. Yeah, it's really amazing. One thing that I really want to follow up was I was really, really fascinated when you mentioned about young farmer school club.
Yes.
Which, to be honest, is my first time to hear this kind of, extracurricular activities in schools, in elementary, be it in elementary or high school. What we used to have in Ethiopia is mostly the common ones are the environment clubs, the nature clubs in school. But to have it a young farmer club is a new thing, and it's really, really amazing. The fact that,
The young farmer club concept came when there was a gap in most schools on the feeding arrangement of children, because you see now in the lower school, some children were coming from very far to attend school, and some when they get to the upper level, they could not be able to have access to lunch food for their lunches. So the young farmers club concept came in most of the rural school back then, so that this club, they were given a portion of the field, a farm in the school, where they can do a garden in the school to cultivate crops. So they were more of food production oriented than the environmental club. So they were blending in between the environmental club and also the young farmer club. So the young farmers club were looking into how do we have a system where we integrate crops and agroforestry, for example. You have food and also you have got trees in the school. Well, the environmental aspect will not look at the environment or planting trees. So the food element was contributing to school feeding programs for those children. They could have
It's
access
really
to school.
fascinating.
They could have
It's
access
very, very fascinating just to the idea of really having this comprehensive and systemic approach to, to have a solution for the current for that problem was really amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, the one of the things that we do in AFSA is intergenerational learning, the knowledge of farming and farming practices between the older generation and the young generation is slowly getting eroded, and the fact that this kind of school clubs are there, that means we cultivate the interest of farming, or not demonizing farming, not associating farming with poverty, starts from the early age. So in so many ways, I find that really, really interesting. And I believe that that's one of the core values you learn from the early age that you took upon where you are today, to be honest. And so after you finished your high school and education, you told us about the two of the work that you have. So how did you join PELUM?
Well, before I joined PELUM, my work journey, as I mentioned, started with supporting farmers in a network in Kenya that was working with farmers in the central part of Kenya. Farmers who are mostly, some were commercial farmers doing wheat farming in Laikipia, some part of Laikipia in Kenya. Having worked in the coastal region also with the farmers on the horticulture and other vegetable crops. And before I joined PELUM, I joined an organization called Inades Formation. Inades Formation had its headquarters in Cote d'Ivoire. And but I joined Inades Kenya. Inades Kenya was also a member of PELUM Kenya. It was a member organization for PELUM Kenya. So being a member of PELUM Kenya, we used to support each other in a number of areas, in the field trials, in the farmer trainings, because as a member organization for PELUM Kenya, we were being invited into PELUM platforms to be able to share the experience and learnings and lessons. We used to come together as member organization of PELUM Kenya to kind of come up with what we call the farmer learning fields on agroecology and agriculture, because PELUM, as you know, was promoting and has been promoting ecological land use principles and management, which is closely linked to agroecology in terms of practice on the ground. So when we used to work with AFSA, with PELUM Kenya as a member staff of Inades Formation Kenya, we were deeply involved into the agroecology work, and having also been a member of AFSA reading about more of agroecology. So I was able to apply some of what I've seen in the publications and what we are doing in Inades and PELUM Kenya to really support communities in Kenya at that time. But Inades also worked in regionally. They have offices in Tanzania, Uganda. They have offices in Tanzania. They have offices in Burundi, Rwanda, and Congo, and also in Kenya. So we used to kind of have a close learning and sharing of experience and information and learning. So how I came to join PELUM now, having worked closely with PELUM, is when we had a board election for PELUM regional office which was still based in Zambia, Lusaka. The chairperson was a board chair of PELUM Kenya, and we used to share a lot of information and learning from each other. And when he left, we were informed in PELUM Kenya that PELUM regional office is having a lot of troubles, and it seems it's going under. We waited and thought that it will come up, so we kept on praying and waiting that it will come up. But our prayer was not being answered, because in 2017, the office of PELUM regional office in Lusaka was kind of closed down. It closed down. When it closed down, the mandate of trying to manage a few programs and projects under the regional office was handed over to PELUM Zambia in interim period. Then the regional PELUM advertised a position, and since I was working with PELUM Kenya, I was able to inquire what is the state of right now. They told me the regional office was closed down, and they want somebody to revive it. So if you think you can apply. I said, let me think about it. But on a second thought, I said, why should the regional office be closed down, and we are supporting PELUM country offices? So that's what inspired me and motivated me to put my application as I was still working for INADES, I applied and I was taken on board. That was on 15th of August 2020 during the heavy time of COVID.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the working arrangement. You're trying to revive a new office somewhere and you're still working from home, minimal travel. You can't go to the office. You can't go out and visit this office where it was and find out what were the challenges. I mean, so it was a very, very challenging moment. But I was happy to say that Bread for the World stood in for PELUM during that difficult time and offered to contribute some fund, just seed capital for revival. So when they were informed that there's funding coming from Bread for the World to support the process, I said, let me go. But I was getting, my friends were telling me, why are you going to a dead project and you're having a very good project in Kenya? Why would you go to something that you are not sure whether it will take off? I said, I believe in challenges. And from my childhood, we were from the rural communities and we never miss something because we were able to face challenges. So I took up the challenge and took up PELUM. So when I went to Lusaka, it was like, there were a lot of issues here to address. And if you want to start off, you better start from another country. That was the advice of the board and the advice of the partner. Start from somewhere, and if need be, you'll bring it back. But for now, for it to take off, you have to take it off from another ground, not here. And that's the reason why we moved to Kampala. And PELUM Uganda played a very key role in supporting us to have it start off the ground. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's it's a new story. I honestly didn't know that there was all these challenges, and you just went right to it. The fact that you didn't shy away on facing challenges tells a huge deal about your character. One of the things that makes us really fulfilled in life is not doing or achieving something uncomfortable, but going to the uncomfortable places and make it really worthwhile is especially knowing where PELUM Association now is really, really amazing.
Thank you.
So now the head office is in Uganda.
Yes.
And you started from a clean slate. Plate on about the whole thing about PELUM Association and the regional supports. Yeah.
A clean slate. What I crossed over to Uganda was a laptop on my bag.
Yeah.
A laptop on my back, and we said, okay, fine, set up the office, get staff to start off with, and move on. So that is what I began with.
Yeah. So now we can. This could be a good time to really try to know and understand what PELUM is. For our audiences, can you tell us about PELUM, especially PELUM Association? As a regional secretariat, and what are the things that you do to support big PELUM associations in East Africa and South Africa, because even without the secretariat office, the PELUM organizations in each country are very, very strong. So can you tell us a more comprehensive explanation of what PELUM is, what you do, and the kind of support you give for national PELUM associations?
Well, if you look at the PELUM framework and PELUM structure, our main preoccupation is to support the small-scale farmers, to support the small-scale farmers from the ground. Now, the work of supporting for small-scale farmer on ground is done by PELUM country organizations and their networks on the ground. And that is why PELUM country chapters, you find this at the level of independence. So the success or failure of the regional office does not kill the spirit at the ground level. But what do we do as a PELUM network? PELUM network is a collection of it's a network of civil society organizations built from the ground to the national level to the regional level. The work of the regional level is to try to support the PELUM country chapters in terms of strengthening their capacities. Not all PELUM country chapters country level are strong. So we do a lot of capacity development for PELUM country networks. That's the first agenda we have, to make sure that each PELUM country chapter is very strong. Because if we say some are strong and some are not strong, we are not saying anything, because you are as strong as your weakest link. So you can't claim to be strong if some links are not strong. So we build the capacities of the PELUM country chapters their boards, their staff, their team on the ground. We support also the PELUM country chapters in the resource mobilization for in-country initiatives. So we do some kind of we do programs and projects which are targeting country implementation, but we do them targeting not one country, like 4, 5, 6, 7 countries. Like for instance, for right now, we are supporting 7 country PELUM country networks with resources to implement with their member organization on the ground. We have got a program on farmer-led research, which is done on ground by PELUM country chapters, and this comes from the PELUM Regional Secretariat. We have a program running with PELUM country chapters on youth in agroecology, business development. This is supported by the PELUM Association as the grant holder, but implementing them with the member organization and the country. We have got program for women, strengthening women for resilient rural communities. It's also in-country implementation in different countries. Now, this is just one of the aspects that PELUM support the country chapters of. Number 2, PELUM Regional Office offering a platform for cross-learning, bringing PELUM country chapters together for regional knowledge sharing and information sharing and dissemination of information. So it's a network which is bringing together, it's like a knowledge hub for the networks. That's one area that PELUM is supporting the country chapters on and focusing on very seriously. And number 3, you see, there are policies that are done at country level that are supported by PELUM country chapters, both the process of strategy development and also at the policy formulation with the government and also the implementation. These policies, they have been formulated at a national level. These policies that are affecting in different countries need to find its way into the sub-regional blocks. So PELUM Association also helped to bring into the attention of the regional blocks the various policies affecting farmers at the country level. And of course, they are working on this with the partner organization as well. They're not doing it alone. There are also other members who are doing the same, and they're contributing to those discussions. But PELUM Association as the regional office is doing a lot in supporting the regional work in policy dissemination, regional level or sub-regional level, also linking the PELUM work with other partners across the continent and outside. Because now, like for instance, we just did a webinar on toxic pesticide finding their way into Africa from Europe. So we are trying to look into the EU-AU partnership. How do we have EU-AU partnership for mutual beneficial processes, which also trickle down to the country level? So we try to bring this playing field from collecting the information from the national level PELUMs to the regional PELUM to be able to come up with a common voice position as the association. So there's so much that PELUM is doing supporting the work or research around agroecology, not only at the national country level, but also regional level. Because what we do is, if, for example, there's a best practice on agroecology in Kenya, we want this practice to be done in all the PELUM countries to be able to have a wider adoption. And so without that linkages, we find that the PELUM Association will become the link to link the country learning experiences and also to bring them to the regional level learning processes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's to be honest, it's a great model, to share the information among members, to have a platform where national members can learn from each country's, those experience sharing is very, very vital. And for me, even, how you build up advocacy work from national level to the continental level is also something that so inspiring in a sense. The national level works and advocacy works are informing the regional advocacy works, and even from the region, then you can take it to the African level, AU level, and international advocacy work. You have all the information from the ground. That's what most of our advocacy efforts fail. You speak on behalf of the smallholder farmers that you have no touch with or no constituencies, but for PELUM, you're working nationally with smallholder farmers, their needs, you have been closely working with them. Then the national hub is serving as a voice of smallholder farmers in each country, but the regional office is also doing the same thing, collecting and organizing all the information they get from the ground. to advocate on behalf of smallholder farmers in Africa. So how many chapters are there? How many PELUM national associations are there? And do you know the numbers of how many smallholder farmers that you're working with as PELUM in general?
Okay. From the first question, PELUM country chapters are currently 14, but we also have 2 new applications that we are still considering. The 14 countries, we have got 7 in the Eastern Africa and the 7 in the Southern Africa. So in the Eastern Africa, we have PELUM Kenya, PELUM Uganda, PELUM Tanzania, PELUM Ethiopia, PELUM Burundi, PELUM Rwanda, and PELUM DR Congo. Those are in Eastern Africa. In the Southern Africa, which we consolidate, with part of the Western Africa, not Western, sorry, with the part of Southern Africa, we have got PELUM in Malawi, we have got PELUM in Zambia, PELUM Zimbabwe, we have got PELUM in Swaziland, which is Swatini. We have PELUM in South Africa, we have PELUM in Lesotho, Botswana. So those make PELUM larger PELUM network in the southern part of Africa. Yes.
So how many in total, with the smallholder farmers?
Now the smallholder farmers that we are working with currently, we are covering over 10 million farmers that we're working with. And we also, in the network, we have got more than 400 civil society organizations in those PELUMs. Like for example, Uganda have got more than 70 CSOs, Kenya have 67 CSO, Ethiopia has 14. So each country chapter has got a number of CSOs under them.
Yeah.
Their network on the ground.
Yeah, that makes the PELUM very, very unique and interesting, to be honest. Even the national associations they by themselves are a network, a big network, where they harbor all this membership, to have hundreds of members by themselves and to aggregate all those information is something unique in Africa. When do you know when PELUM Association became a member of AFSA, and what's the relationship with PELUM, with AFSA? Which working group are you actively participating?
Well, PELUM Association became a member of AFSA before I joined PELUM. And from record, PELUM Association joined AFSA way back in around 2015, 2016. That is when they joined PELUM, but they joined AFSA. The former Secretary General for PELUM Association, Faustin, was also at one point a member of the board of AFSA during that period. Yes, so the association has been very, very instrumental in working closely with AFSA. When I joined PELUM now, because I can't talk for my predecessor because I found when he has left, I joined all the thematic groups because I was alone. So I was in the seed group, I was in the advocacy group,
yeah,
I was in the citizen group,
yeah,
because we really wanted to understand how the dynamics in the thematic areas and where they work. Very critical and very active. Yes. So when I have new staff joining, so I was able to delegate.
We're talking about the PELUM's involvement in AFSA working groups.
Yes. So now we are in the working group because our head of program medias is in the citizen working group and also SEED. Then we have a new staff on advocacy, Lorraine, who's in climate change working group. So those are the groups that we are involved in, and we are participating in the groups very actively because I remember medias also had an opportunity through AFSA organizing the non-state actors in the post-Malabo KADAP process in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and she actively participated in that, and even in Uganda meetings, and also she was also part of the Kampala Declaration through that network arrangement. We have been very active in the PELUM and in the AFSA working groups because we appreciate and really recognize the issue of drawing synergy. That's the only way that our voice can be heard. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. To have that strong, unified voice as African is what has been missing is what AFSA, the advent of AFSA and the strength of AFSA is really filling that gap.
Yes.
Solidifying, organizing all the African voices and advocating on behalf of African smallholder farmers, food producers, and all those indigenous groups, youth, women, fishers, all these groups have now can speak as one African voice in different international platforms. So I really wanted to know also, how the work of agroecology and food sovereignty is integrated in most of, PELUM Association, National Association chapters and regionally. And if you can share us, why you think Africa should push for agroecology and food sovereignty, and what are the challenges of really promoting and advocating agroecology and food sovereignty in Africa?
Okay. Our PELUM Association work in food sovereignty and agroecology platform is something that all the PELUM national offices are doing, because we had come to realize and recognize that agroecology is the way to go. Because if we don't promote agroecology, we are not going to have the kind of nature ecosystem that we are looking for. So even from the previous practice of sustainable food system that PELUM was promoting, it was anchored on ecological land use. So ecology recognizes nature and the interaction of nature and how the nature is linked, and the supportive system in the using the ecosystem supporting mechanisms that are there. So that is why we try to see that if we don't promote agroecology, we are going to become like extinct. We are going to be extinct because we are going to be eating poison instead of food. We shall be breathing poison instead of air. So we not be having the diversity of food system. So that is the reason why PELUM took it upon itself to have the why agroecology. Agroecology, first thing on agroecology, I believe agroecology is a very affordable practice. Why affordable? Because agroecology uses the existing natural system to produce food. If you're looking for example, if you want to improve the soil health, you're using all the plant materials to fix the soil health issues. So it's affordable. You don't have to buy chemicals. You don't have to buy pesticides to be able to produce agroecological product. That is one element of agroecology. The element of agroecology is very strong is diversity. Agroecology has got a very diverse food production system. You have got all what you need in your parcel of land, and you can be able to produce from that perspective and get enough food for yourself and be able to share and sell if you want. So those are the key pillars that agroecology is the best way to go, and is the way to go because it's affordable, it's diverse, it protects nature, it depends on the nature ecosystem, and it's sustainable because if you don't do agroecology, the practice that are used, which is non-agroecological, it's so expensive to sustain that kind of farming system or production system. So agroecology has got those key pillars that we needed to really emphasize on diversity in terms of production, food. Now, when we come to the challenges in agroecology, one challenge which is coming in agroecology is, coming from the farmer perspectives, is where they're saying it's labor intensive. That's one thing they're pointing out as a challenge, because they're saying you can only produce so much under agroecology. But now, another question we're asking is, where is that big tract of land that is available for our commercial farming? It's not there. So as much as they're saying the challenge is labor intensive, the land space is also reducing. So if you have small packet of plots and do agroecology, you are much more safer. Agroecology will give you a long-term food production system, but they see it as a challenge. I don't know why, but we try to get out of that problem or challenge that they're talking about. Now, number two, the training and scale of the farmers to apply agroecologically produced inputs is a challenge at the moment. For example, you find it's only a small portion of farmers who are able to do their own biofertilizer. There are only a few who can be able to do biopesticide because of lack of skills. The few that have got skills, the skill has not been documented and shared widely to support the others. So documentation and sharing is a gap which need to be touched and tackled very well. Now, the other thing is also availability of quantity. There's quality, but availability of quantity. Why quantity? We're talking about farmer-managed seed. Sometimes at the planting seasons, you find the farmers exhaust what is available. Then they go back to the agrovets to supplement. That becomes a challenge to the farmers. So the way we can be able to harness and have centralized seed banks with the farmers collectively as networks is a missing link. So farmers end up going to buy food instead of seed.
Yeah.
Then with the low adoption of agroecology work in small groups, because you are working with farmers and you find farmer X have adopted, farmer Y has not. Then when they plant, the farmer Y who has not adopted agroecology, plant their open sourced seed from the agrovets.
Yeah.
And this one has produced agroecologically produced seed. The cross-pollinations of these crops already affect the other one. So how can we have a system where we move like a spiral cluster approach, where you keep on expanding the boundary so that your immediate neighbor is doing the same thing you are doing. So there is no effects. But the major problem is agroecology being impacted so much by the corporate sector. The corporate sector players, they have got means of advocacy, advocating for their things. Even at the village level, they have the means to supply farmers with free things that they know that the effect is going to be long term. They have
and
a
it will
way
make
of
them dependent too. It's not free, but
so they make the farmers more dependent than independent. But agroecology makes the farmers independent, and that's what they don't want to see.
Yeah.
So they want to make farmers as dependent on them as much as possible. Just for example, in my village, I'm not buying my seed from the agrovets. I'm doing my own agroecological seed in the village. I have a farm in the village. I have got my plantation of bananas I got from Kampala. My neighbors have been planting seed by 1 acre fund. They planted for 4 seasons. From the 5th season going forward, they are harvesting nothing. The land and the soil is they have really sapped up all the nutrients on the ground. They're producing nothing. So last month they came to me and asked, "What magic are you using? What magic are you
still
using?
producing it?
And where are you buying this magic? So that we can also go and buy that magic." I told them the magic I'm using is using organic, the green manure. I don't have pests because my soil is healthy, so they don't allow for the breeding of the pests on my ground. So my crops are never affected. So those are the challenges we're having. The level of adopting agroecology is still low because farmers are still divided. And many farmers are now focusing on the commercial agriculture. They say they produce agroecology, but with a market lens. Most farmers are market driven to the point that you find even some are producing and selling everything and now waiting for the government to give them relief food, which are GMO. The challenge is the youth produce these things and be able to use them to market to the farmers. An example is a youth in Uganda who are using black soldier flies to be able to collect garbage from the markets and be able to transform them very quickly into manure and fertilizer. Not fertilizer, sorry, manure for the farmers. Because the black soldier fly can be able to turn a heap of garbage into a compost very easily, decompose them very easily, and you have your manure there to supply the farm. We have to make these manures attractive and also portable. We take them to, we provide a few farmers to do them. We empower them to do them. We do the packaging. We involve a few researchers who are agriculture friendly to research on their nutritional content of the soil, so that they can be able to know that this one has got this element in it that is going to support the crop, supporting the soil, supporting this, with the researchers from those are agroecologically friendly researchers, not from the other side. Then we'll be able to address those challenges that we just mentioned around agroecology. Yes, and I don't see the issue of land tilling as a challenge. It's not a big challenge.
No, you really gave us a very penetrating analysis of what the challenges are on the ground. And I kept thinking one of the challenges that we have to scale up agroecology across Africa is really lies on how much we're successful in convincing our governments to start supporting agroecological practices, and instead of a wide adoption of this industrial way of commercial farming, which is their main focus now.
Yes.
Even mentioned it, the financial flows to support agroecological practices are not as big and strong as others are getting. So it has become really very difficult, even if we know the solutions, even if we know how to really address some of the challenges that you mentioned. For example, the experience sharing, reaching more farmers, listening their challenges and really providing them solutions might be easy if we have the resources and the political commitment from the government side. So how much are we successful in bringing the government into, agroecological way of thinking? Because as as a civil society, is only little that we can we can change and build success stories, show them, areas and places and the farmers that have tried agroecological way of producing food and that they are successful. But in order to scale it up as a country level or as a continental level, it hinges upon the wide acceptance of our political decision makers and policy makers towards agroecology. So how are we on that regard? What are some of the activities that PELUM Association is doing on the advocacy front?
Well, the first one was, I would give you one example of Ethiopia. Last year, when the government ran out of the fertilizer to the farmers during planting seasons, and they didn't know where to go, there was already a collaboration between PELUM Ethiopia and the government of Ethiopia on very many researched work sharing, very many convening, and very many discussions. So when the PELUM Ethiopia realized this, the Minister for Agriculture was like, where do we start? He remembered we had been having meetings with Dr. Elu, who's from PELUM. What can we do? They went and had a conversation, and the government of Ethiopia gave PELUM Ethiopia money to produce and supply the biofertilizers to the farmers, which was very successful. What I don't know is how far they have followed up for consistent, not only the government going when there's a gap, and then the gap stops, the government stops, and we also stop. There should be a deliberate effort to say, you saw what we did, it worked. So can we continue that partnership? So that's something I think we need to pursue without having a break. But coming to the question, what are we doing? Already at PELUM national level, the PELUM national chapters have been very instrumental in financing and discussing the development of agroecology strategy at country level. And this agroecology strategy at the government level, which will translate into policy, but really if a strategy is existing, that's the first step. Because we can't start by demanding for policy, we need to first come up with a strategy. So the PELUM country chapters that I'm aware have pushed in for the national agroecology strategy, PELUM Uganda, PELUM Kenya, PELUM Zimbabwe, we have got PELUM Zambia, we have got PELUM Swatini, PELUM Tanzania, and they convene, but they support the government to sit in the discussions. And I can report to you that PELUM Kenya, from their initiative, Murang'a County in Kenya has rolled out their first agroecology strategy, which is approved by the government. Now they are working on the national national agroecology strategy for Kenya with the support of PELUM initiatives. So these initiatives are really getting buy-in. Kenya started with the county level because Kenya is a decentralized government system. So they started with the counties to be able to push it through the national. So the Murang'a County was the first to launch the agricultural strategy. Now the national one is almost past the draft stage. Yeah. So it's going to be launched very soon. So other counties are following this because where the PELUM Kenya is working more than 40 out of the 47 counties. And believe me, they are supporting this initiative that Murang'a has already just launched. So all other PELUMs are bringing in the government into a discussion on developing agroecology strategy. And with this, there's a lot of buying in the East Africa and Southern Africa networks into this. The report we got also from West Africa, because we had a discussion with Inades Burkina. We've been having, they are also doing a lobbying and discussion around agroecology strategy. So in the meeting we had just to cut the story short, the meeting we had a meeting last week with partners from the Bread for the World, drawn from 22 countries. And all the 22 countries except Egypt shared that they already rolled out an agroecology strategy in their countries. There's a discussion going on. So the government's already buying into the strategy. So it's already at a space which require more advocacy, more focus, more support, and more push. But already most of the governments in Africa are adopting that. as a strategy, which is going to help us be able to promote a deepen agroecology and integrate agroecology work into the normal food system by the government at the government level. Because for this agroecology strategy, it's also talking about retraining the extension farmers on agroecology because they don't understand it. So they want to retrain these extension workers in agriculture on agroecology. That's one of the elements in the strategy. And what we are leveraging on is now what the government is asking for is how would you support us to retrain these farmers? And this is where the CSOs come in.
Yeah, that's where your expertise came in and be of huge help,
Yes, because if we don't come in from agroecology promoters, the space will be taken by those in the industrial sector, pretending to be contributing fund and pretending to be training those people in agroecology, but training them on other things. If we leave that gap of training, it will go.
Yeah, they will always hijack whatever.
They'll hijack and grab it, yes, and go with it very quickly and put their name into it that we are promoting agroecology strategy training for extension workers, but train them on their own things. Yes.
It's really very promising to see where the kind of changes and achievements we have now comparing to what we, did 3-4 years ago is really, really big, to be honest. All over Africa, many governments are now, getting on board, at least, conceptually understanding and accepting agroecology as a sustainable solution, to do farming and food systems in Africa. They might not be fully on board to support financially or with all political commitments, with the courage to say no to industrial agriculture or the support they get from, the foundations, big corporations. Although we understand their challenge, the fact that they are coming through in terms of really understanding where our approach is a huge, huge, huge success from all the social movements in Africa, really advocating for agroecology and food sovereignty. My next question would be, while we are on this topic, what would be your message to African youth? Our success can only depend on how much we part to the young generation. It depends on how much we convince them to embrace agroecology, fight for their food systems. As Africa, as AFSA, as you know, we launched a campaign, My Food is African, because we want the young generations in Africa to really understand the politics behind food and to start owning their own African indigenous foods, to support their farmers, to support the farming communities in their own country, and, for the climate justice, for environmental conservation, for everything. Agroecology is a comprehensive solution. So how do we inculcate this value to young generations, and what would be your message to bring them on board?
I must say the youth is a group that is very easy to work with as long as you understand the youth. They are very easy to work with and they are very easy to follow a concept which is clear to them, which they can understand and be able to implement. I'll say this because recently we have a project on Youth Learning Track Africa. This project was being run by NFP in the past in various countries, and when it ended in 2 years, so the youth, some of them were left entirely in the process. Some continue, some do not continue. But the model it was promoting was youth in agribusiness, youth in agroecology business, youth in agroecology business learning track Africa. So YALTA. So when we had a proposal and a project concept, and we got some funding from SDC to do this project, we already have a number of youth that are mentoring the others, because we're using the mentor-mentee approach. The youth who are already there and already successful, mentoring the others. So we have like a snowball effect.
Exactly.
To the youth.
Yeah.
That kind of approach on the youth is working well in agroecology. Of course, we have youth networks and other things, but this one is like with the snowballing. We are already having a number of youth who we are not reaching directly, but are participating in the business development, and we are linking them with the financial institution that would like to support them, because agroecology businesses are very, very, very well in terms of marketing and production if they are produced under agroecological system. So we are working with the youth on this, and our aim is not to work with the youth only in the setup and mentorship and drop them with there. As PELUM, we are thinking of having a global youth movement.
Why
and
not?
why we
Yes.
think about this, we want
Yeah.
a system where the youth can have a platform and have their own, set their own agenda. And when you do this, what the youth do not like is coming up into a system where they don't see there's a social benefit, but without economic benefit. Youth would not like to produce food for consumption for the family, at family level. They see it as a waste of time.
Yeah.
That's why you
It has
see
to
them
make
going
some, economic sense to them.
Exactly. So when they're in this system, they're able to work with the agroecological players. Now, the youth in agroecology, agroecological production, also in the food system, it's a value chain. At what part of the value chain should the youth fit most or fit best?
Yeah.
So something you need to identify. Are they at production? Are they at marketing? Are they at value addition? So we have to have this youth in different segments. Those who are involved in marketing agroecological products become the marketers. Those who are in the value addition system, we support the value addition systems. Those who are in the production system. So already this project is working very well, and we are bringing youth on the discussions. We are also bringing youth into policy spaces, which I think we are doing very well with AFSA. But what is lacking, and I keep on saying, is growing synergy. I remember having a conversation with Dr. Million before he flew to India, that we're having this agroecology conference in Nairobi. What are we doing with the youth? Because when we push, AFSA is pushing on this together with PELUM, together with ESAF, when other networks in ADES is here, we'll be able to have this global youth movement you're talking about and bring youth into the table. But if AFSA is pushing AFSA and PELUM and ESAP in the East Africa region, and West Africa is not included in ADES, for example, we are only pushing a small pocket of youth, which will take so long to realize the snowball kind of processes of the youth. So I think at the moment we are doing so much to bring youth on the table, but the problem is we are bringing youth on the table without one unified voice. I was not in the Uganda declaration. Sorry, I was still in Kenya handling some issues. So my colleague from the program was in that meeting. But what she's reported is Agra had a youth pavilion, youth and women pavilion in the Kampala declaration with a huge number, to counter. You see, now, when AFSA had the meeting for youth in Summit Daddies, the government of Ethiopia, African Union, hold another one just within the close quarters. So you ask yourself, are we competing or complementing? So you find that we're struggling and searching the youth. So we need the CSOs, the networks enough, like AFSA, PELUM, ESAF, in ADES. We need to really come up together and solidify the youth agenda in agroecology and come up with a joint process. There's no youth for AFSA, there's no youth for AGRA, there's no youth for PELUM.
It's just only African youth,
African youth. So how do we put the African youth voice behind agroecology? This should be the question. What are the strategies for bringing the African youth behind agroecology as a voice? And it's a discussion that we need to pick very quickly with the network members and see how do we bring this discussion on the table. Otherwise,
I'm sure it's very, very achievable. That we have started the groundwork in each country. PELUM, all the civil society organizations are currently working with youth, or at least have a youth program. So it's a matter of really consolidating all these national efforts, regional efforts, and make it big, one unified African voice for food sovereignty and agroecology.
That would be great.
We can really
start
working towards that, and it's a very, very, very valid point, Hannington. Maybe we're taking our time. As a final question, one thing that I really want to pick your mind on is about your message for fellow Africans, the farming society or governments, for any Africans. What do you want them to know about African agriculture, African food system, and about agroecology? How can, especially your message to African governments on the kind of support you want them to give for civil society organizations in Africa working to improve the food systems in Africa?
Well, just to cap it up in some short phrase, I'm saying the African food system is taking a deep dive in the wrong direction. And the African leaderships are being misguided into accepting and adopting the industrial and corporate farming system, which is in itself destroying the continent. So to me, the message to the African leaders, let us rally behind agroecology and support the agroecology initiatives to be able to reclaim our health, our food, and our heritage. Otherwise, we are going to be a lost continent. That's what I can say.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's such a powerful message. I really would like to really have more time to discuss with you. I'm sure, with the kind of how huge and impactful PELUM's association is, and PELUM national associations and organizations are. 1 hour to really highlight their works and their achievements is not really enough. But maybe we can have another sessions with you to just go, dive in more specific ways in highlighting some of the country organizations. And as part of the Voice of AFSA newsletter, I also promise to you now that we'll also start talking with PELUM organizations. So for example, PELUM Uganda or Ethiopia, just to get the sense of what PELUM is doing nationally.
Yes. That's
so
great.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.